Hello. You are listening to the Carroll Connection with your host, Jared Carroll.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Carroll Connection. I am your host, Jared Carroll, here to bring you guys another great episode. I did want to take a chance to shout out last week's episode, 112, with Liz Caruso. She is the owner of LC Elite Gym, as well as a personal trainer. We talked about her journey playing basketball and how that influenced a lot of what she does now, going through the college route, post-college, trying to figure out what she wanted to do, and creating her own gym. And it was a really great topic. We talked about how working out and mental health go hand in hand and how important that is. So love those type of episodes. Please go check that out at thecarrollconnection.simplecast.com. Also available on YouTube as well, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, all the major listening platforms. So for today, bringing another great guest for episode 113, Myles Ascolese.
What's up? Thanks for having me on.
Glad that you could come out here and do this. It's been a little bit since we had a conversation. We've been warming up. So how I like to lead the podcast, like I said, is kind of let everyone know who you are and what you're doing currently.
Sure. Currently do a couple of different things. I guess my main thing is I'm a music producer. So I've been doing that for, I don't know how many years now. I mean, I guess I've been doing it for a while. I started doing it like when we were in high school, but like professionally, 4 or 5 years since I got out of college, I guess. So I'm doing that, and then doing that like remotely right now, just because of the area I'm living in. And then I work like a few days a week at a restaurant because it keeps me busy, and it's just like some good extra money, and it's not a desk job because I can't do a desk job. I always have to be like doing shit. So, and it like kind of gives me like something to do like socially too. So, kind of helps out because I'm always just like working all the time. But yeah, that's kind of what I'm doing right now. Nothing too crazy.
No, that's perfect. It's perfect to lay out.
Nothing out of the ordinary.
Yeah, and we'll dive into, as we progress through the episode, like I kind of laid out the format for you, getting into your music and getting into your career. So like I said, we start off with family dynamic and upbringing. Sure. So whatever you're comfortable with sharing, I'll kind of let you take the floor with that.
All right. So I guess family dynamic. I have an older sister who she lives down in Arlington, Virginia now. She just got engaged. So that's pretty cool for her. I don't have like the best relationship with her. Like we don't talk like a ton. Pretty much this year, like when she comes home or stuff like that, like holidays, all that kind of stuff. I have an interesting family dynamic, I guess. Like my grandmother helped pretty much raise me because my mom worked, and my dad was an airline captain, so he used to fly, all the time. So he'd fly for like, I don't know, it's hard to remember now, but maybe like 5 to 10 days. And then he'd come home for like a week, and then he'd go like fly for a week or whatever. It's kind of like his schedule. So my grandmother took care of me a lot growing up. Like brought me to like sports and music stuff, all that kind of stuff. And then my parents got divorced when I was in like 4th grade. So that kind of like broke that up a little bit. And that was quite a lengthy process. I think they were still hashing some shit out when I was a freshman in college. So they definitely took their time with that one. Definitely kind of probably caused some issues later on for me that I didn't really pay attention to at the time because I just didn't know. I was like, whatever. It's like, oh, this is like totally normal. It's like everybody thinks like this. And then I grew up, I was like, nobody thinks like that. So yeah, like nothing too crazy growing up. Like everything was like pretty like normal for me as a kid. Like played sports, played music, got into that at like a really early age, and I had a pretty, other than like my parents getting like split up and that kind of being a weird thing, I had a pretty like normal like childhood, like nothing too eventful, to be honest.
Yeah, and I think I always like to start off with this topic because I think it always lays down the foundation, and I'm like a big proponent of laying down the foundation, and then if you have a good foundation, we could build upon that. And obviously, this is like the first time a lot of people on my side are hearing you, and this is also a chance for you to kind of talk about your life story with like people who might not know your full life story. And I think the important aspect of a podcast like this is to kind of start from the beginning and we build up.
Yeah, it's funny. I think like even a lot of people who like know me, like obviously like we grew up together, they don't know like any of this stuff because I just never talked about it. You know what I mean? So I think it's kind of a good thing that you're. The show, like I've seen you have a bunch of people on that obviously you went to high school with and that I know, and it's like kind of interesting people actually get to talk about their stuff because I feel like with like how we went to high school. It was like very cliquey and all that kind of stuff. Like nobody really like talked about anything. It was like you just kind of hung out with your friend group and that was about it. You know, at least that was like my experience. Like I just kind of hung out with my friends and didn't really talk to too many other people or like take the time to get to know anybody too much.
Yeah, and that's really what I remember CConk 4, and when I was like flashing back to and thinking about the relationships that I had, I was always pretty good at like, I mean, it helped that I played sports and it was in like those honors classes, and like that's where we started to overlap too. And we played sports as well, but like I was able, and I realized this later in life was like, there's not a lot of people probably throughout high school that could have done a podcast that kept good relationships with people, like because like you said, it was cliquey. People stayed to what they did, stayed to the people they knew.
Exactly.
So it's like when I look back, I had such a wide range of people that I was like friendly with, and like I'm a big believer of like keeping positive relationships. So like obviously if someone does me fucking wrong, I'm gonna do some shit. I'm petty as fuck.
Yeah.
But like at the same time, having positive relationships and giving people a chance to kind of explain themselves, talk about themselves. People like doing that. People want to have that. And like, I was so sick of the constant, just like you walk by someone and see them at a bar. Hey, what's up, man?
Yeah,
like it's the same,
bored of that shit.
Same shit. And like, when I do this podcast, like you guys only see an hour of this, but like we're hanging out. We're like actually like talking about shit. Like we spent
we spent like an hour and a half.
Yeah. And like every time I do this podcast, it's the same thing. And like I lose track of time in the whole pre-interview. And like, I think pre-interviews are important for setting up for a show.
Right.
But like, we're just chatting, having fun. And I think that's like the best part of like the podcast for me is like the stuff, like the podcast is fun, but the stuff that we talk about on and off the podcast, not always going to say publicly.
Oh yeah.
So it's like, that stuff is like the fun stuff. And like, it's cool to catch up with people and like to have these conversations. And like, I've had such a unique perspective onto so many. I've done hundreds. So episode 113. So like I've done like probably 100 plus different people, and like to hear all these different perspectives and like to hear your stuff from your side of like things, and it's like it's new. It's awesome.
Yeah. It's funny. It's funny you mentioned like running into people. Like obviously I moved away for a little bit, so I didn't run into so many people. So I kind of got to get away from that. But now that I've been back for a year and a half, I think. I don't even know, something like that. Anyway, like I'll run into some people sometimes, and I'm like, no, that's not me. You know, and I just like keep walking, or sometimes I can't avoid it, and I like talk to someone that I like went to high school with, and I'm like, I've never talked to them once in my life, and I just had like a really nice like 5-minute conversation with them, and I never would have bothered to talk to them in high school. So it's just like funny how like you grow up and you realize like we were just being like hella childish.
Yeah, it's just like we also grew up in a weird time with like social media being introduced to, and like it's like. And that's like it's one of the cool things. I've interviewed people like as old as my grandfather, and then as young as people in high school. So like the dynamic is super different.
Yeah, no, I remember like all that stuff was like getting big when we were in high school. I just remember there's that Twitter page we got. I shouldn't say we. I don't know who it was who made it. Do you remember it was like CConk Roast or something like that? It was like it caused like a whole set of problems, and like we were just shitty.
It was like crazy because like, I remember even just like when Facebook was like or AMI, like the fucking messaging and shit. Like
I forgot about that.
Like it's like we grew up in such a unique time, and like I like honestly appreciate it. Like obviously the way like we now have like Snapchat super big, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, all these Twitter. Like these kids grow up with this expectation of it, and we didn't. We had like a little bit of a childhood before social media, which was nice.
Yeah, all this stuff now is kind of a blessing and a curse, but.
Yeah, because it's a double-edged sword. Yeah. Like that's how exactly I look at social media. Is like it was created, I think, for positive, but like obviously when you create for positive, there's also a counteractive, which is going to be negative.
There's so much stuff about it that's like not great, but you know what are you gonna do?
Yeah, it works. I mean, the positive is that we're able to have a conversation where you're able to promote your music, promote your stuff, and like that. That's one of the positives, and that's where I look at this. And we even talked about this off podcast. It's like. If I made a fucking podcast talking to everyone about the drama and like the toxic relationships, like people would eat that shit up. Yep. But like, I'm trying to keep it positive, show people in like this mental health space that we all struggle. We all have these type of issues, and sharing your story can help someone else. Yeah, for sure. Like I just remember, there weren't like too many people that I talked to about that kind of stuff. Like growing up, there's like a couple people in high school. But it was like, I talked to people and then they would kind of get like annoyed with it. And I was just like, oh, like, I guess everybody like feels like this. Like, I'll just shut up and just kind of, shove it all down. Like, this is totally normal. And then, now at this point, I'm like, okay, like,
not to like, I don't want to like call people out about it, but I'm like, I talk to people, like I talk to people about this kind of stuff, like people that like, I trusted about at the time, and they were like, no, you're good. Like it's this, that, or the other. Like, dude, I don't want to be bothered with this, like blah, 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 whatever. And it's like, now I'm like, shit, what the fuck? Like I was walking around thinking like everybody felt like this, you know what I mean? And now I'm like, okay, if I had kind of, and obviously a huge part of it, not to sound at all like I'm passing it off to anybody, because a huge part of it is, my own fault of not ever bothering to, or having too much of an ego to go and take care of it the right way. But yeah, now it's at this point I'm like, shit, I really should have done this like a long time ago, of like going to get some help and like figuring it out and like getting all that shit sorted out. But yeah, the definitely the dynamic of like kind of how we were in high school and all that kind of stuff, and especially with social media becoming a thing, it wasn't the best thing for me at the time personally. So like looking back on it now, I'm like, yeah, I definitely could have done a lot of stuff a lot better. But being 15, 16, not having any understanding of like what it's actually like to be emotionally intelligent, I just thought it was like a normal, like the way I felt was like completely normal. I was like, oh, it'll just go away someday. And like, and I always had like those things in my head of like, oh, if these like one or two things happen, like I'll be happy, and you end up in that like cycle of being like, you're just like waiting for something to happen almost, instead of like doing something about it. And it's funny because I kind of like, I definitely have an ego about stuff for sure, but I always have an ego about the wrong things. And it's funny, it's like there's certain situations where, like especially with my job, where I'm like, damn, if I had like more of an ego in that situation, like when I met this person at this event or whatever, like I could have been like way farther along. But because I was like, oh no, I don't know if I'm like, that person's kind of like way farther than I am, like I don't want to waste their time with like being like, hey, like here's what I do, like here's my shit, I kind of wanted to be like not that guy when I probably should have been. And then so that, and those situations I'm like, shit, I wish I had an ego. And then I'll have it like for over the worst shit, like getting help with something. I'm like, no, I can do it myself. It's fine. Like I'll take care of it. And
it's such an interesting thing. Yeah.
And like, obviously I can't. So I'm like, fuck, I wish like, why does it only work when I don't need it to work? So, yeah, it's kind of funny. It's like thinking back on it now, I'm like, should have listened to some people a little bit sooner, try to get me some help. But we're on the road to figuring all that shit out now. Somebody finally got through to me like literally a month ago. So it's like a very new thing for me, like going to like starting to go to therapy and like get that shit taken care of. But yeah, it's the way that your brain works is it's pretty interesting, especially with that kind of stuff of like always thinking you can, or at least for me, it was always like, oh, I can handle this myself. And I always like wanted to help other people, but I never, like, it seemed like I never wanted to like help myself. And I don't know if that was because like I was like, oh, I'll just help other people and I'll feel better about it. You know what I mean? Like, or if it was more of like if one of my friends or like somebody that I cared about or whatever was like going through it, or like it could be like the smallest shit, and I'll be like, oh, I'll help you do that, because I'm like, I don't want people to have to like feel the way that I felt about shit. You know what I mean? Like I hate that, because I'm like, dude, I wouldn't wish this on anybody. Like the way that I would feel sometimes. So I'm like, yeah, I'll go help everybody but me. So now it's like finally like I'm like, all right, gonna go take care of myself for once. So,
yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, because I'm very open and active about promoting mental health and therapy.
Oh yeah.
As someone who struggled with my own mental health and went to therapy for about a year and a half and like was able to have success in it, it's a place where I think, especially men, that we need to like be active in talking about this, because it's not like we're not taught this stuff.
No, yeah. That's definitely a thing. For me, I never felt like it was like I've never thought about it as being like, oh, I'm a guy, I don't want to go to therapy. Because I'm a guy, like, I don't give a shit. Like, whatever. Like, it was more of like, I don't know. I think I always just wanted to, like, handle it myself.
That's
like,
kind of a masculine thing.
No, it is, like, it is subconsciously, but it's not even that I wanted to, like, take care of it myself, but it was more of, like, when I thought about, like, the things that were bothering me, or, like, most of those things, I was like, this is so dumb. And I was like, am I really going to go like pay someone to like sit and listen to this? Like, this is so stupid. Like, why can't I just fix this? Like, I'll just like I'll just fix this myself. Like it's so like when I break it down in my head, like the things that are like I'm like that really like something small happened. I'm like really that's what's gonna ruin my day to day, like for real. But I think like what I wasn't understanding is um it's like a lot of it like leads up, right? There's a lot of shit that like compounds on top of it, and it's like for years, like for like 10 years at least, I was just shoving everything down because I was like, oh, if I just like go if I'm like pretty flat, like emotionally, if I just like trim off the edges, and I just go like right down the middle, nothing will bother me, right? Because like if I'm not sad, right, I'm cool. Like if I just go right down the middle, I'm fine. But then you're also like not happy. You know what I mean? You're kind of just like stuck in this like mundane like sense of emotion of like you're just like right down the middle, and that's like really bad way to be. Like as someone who's been doing it for a number of years, it's like not a healthy way to do things.
No, I agree. And I think
Yeah.
a lot of people like get stuck in this pattern of like not feeling it. Like, cause like
Yeah.
part of it, like my mantra for a long time was feel your feelings. And like, I found that helpful, but it became toxic at a point where I would feel everything and was like, fuck what everyone else has to say. Like,
Yeah.
I don't care. But like, I think because I was definitely raised in like the whole the man up stuff. Like you play
Yeah.
sports, you don't
Oh, yeah,
cry, you
yeah,
don't be a
for
bitch.
sure.
Like you get up, you go. And then with that, like I learned to start more feeling my feelings through the podcast, and it became super negative where I didn't care. I was just too emotional. And I think there is important balance to feeling your emotions, and also there is times where you just got to get up and get it.
Oh
So
yeah,
like
for sure.
I think once you feel the emotions, an important aspect is to let go of those emotions as well too.
Yeah. I think a big thing for me is I was always just like, I'll just work through this. You know what I mean? Like, I'll figure it out. Like I'll find a way to solve this. And I'll just push through it. I'm just gonna get up, go do whatever I have to do today, and tomorrow's a new day. And I had like that attitude about it for a while, which was like not that's not a good attitude either, because like you have to solve these problems eventually, because they just like I said, they just kind of compound on top of each other. But I think another thing for me was I always found that like if I like when I would talk to people about like how I was feeling and stuff, they would kind of get like upset with me about it. So I'm like, well, now I don't want to talk about it, So then they get like annoyed or whatever. People get upset with me, and I'm like, all right, well, now I'm just gonna keep it all in. I'm gonna keep it to myself because I don't want to bother anybody. Like I don't want to like push people away that I like because I'm like bothering them with like the way that I feel about stuff. And it might not even have anything to do with them. It's just like in general. Or I'd be like, oh, I have to like hide all this shit, right? Because if you're like, if you're like kind of depressed about stuff or, things like that, it's like people are gonna be like, oh, I don't want to like hang out with somebody who's like depressed all the time. You know what I mean? Like I want good vibes, So it's like, shit, I gotta like kind of keep all this shit in and kind of like fake it, which is, yeah, it's not healthy. So I think it's important for like to go get some help and figure all that shit out. Because and the other thing is like when I was kind of circle back for a minute, but when I was talking about like how I was like, oh, if these like one or two or three things whatever happen, like I'll be happy. But like there's probably so many things that actually have to happen for that stuff to happen. You know what I mean? That I'm just not aware of, because obviously I'm not a therapist. I don't understand how my brain works. I don't know why it works the way it does. It just does. So there's probably so many things that I'm just not even aware of that are causing some problems that I'm sure like once I understand what those are, then I can it'll be kind of like a domino effect of like, okay, like fix that and I'll fix this, and then I can work on fixing that, and then
I think people
eventually
like with the therapy too.
there.
Yeah. The therapy and therapists help you teach you these skills, and like
Yeah.
people don't know, like you're not, like I referenced earlier, you're not taught these skills off birth, and
No.
it's not against like our parents or grandparents. They weren't taught it either.
Nobody knows.
So like,
Yeah.
it's this constant, because like you said, the brain's a weird thing. Like it's trying to figure out how this works, why it works the way it does, and we don't always even know why it does what it does.
Yeah, and I think that's the whole thing with like obviously they're like professionals and it's their job to kind of figure it out. But like, you and I could go through the same exact experience. It could be like a traumatic experience and it could affect you one way and me another. And there's no reason why. It just is what it is. You know what I mean? So it's like, it's really hard to figure that stuff out with like why people get affected certain ways by things. Like, obviously like with my sister, like we grew up with the same general set of, whatever was going on in life, but like, I'm sure it affects her differently than me. And that's just because it just is the way it is. You know what I mean? So I think there's no like, it's not like you go to the doctor and they're like, oh, you have an infection, you have a cold, we're here, take these antibiotics, you'll be fine in a week. You know what I mean? There's no like one size fits all like a remedy for that kind of stuff. It takes a while to like kind of all like unpack all of it and like figure it out. And fortunately I've like come to realize that recently. It's obviously I'm still a very long way away from like really getting it all figured out, but at least it's like kind of going in the right direction. And I finally I haven't gotten through to me. I'm still working on that. I've gotten through to myself a little bit, but like a couple people that like kind of like, give a shit about me have kind of gotten through to me finally. And like people have tried before, and like I said, I was always just wanted to like solve it myself. But I think now at this point I'm just like I don't know how to explain it. Like it's more of like I think I finally want it to work. You know what I mean? Like I think something like switched in me where I was like, you know what? I'm finally just gonna go through with it this time and do it. Cause like, I'm kind of just like tired of it. Like clearly I can't figure this out on my own. So
the hardest thing to do is reach out for help. Like I literally broke down. I mean, like even just like I said all the time in that bathroom, like I literally had a couple years ago, just broke down and like had to walking up to my mom and saying I need help was like one of the hardest conversations I've ever had.
And it's like, it's so funny. Cause like for me, it's like, I don't mind talking to people that I'm like close with about it. Right. So like, I have like there's very few people that I've like kind of like latched onto emotionally that I'm like willing to like open up to about it. But like if I'm like comfortable talking to somebody, I'll talk to them about it. Like I don't care. I'll tell you whatever. But it's like there was something about going. It was just weird. There's something about going to someone that I don't know whose job it is to make me feel better that I was like, nah, I can't do that.
It's weird.
So weird.
Yeah.
It's like the dumbest thing.
It's like they know they teach you a lot of like great valuable lessons. And like my biggest thing too with therapy is like, if you don't want to go, probably it's not going to work. You have to want to do it for yourself. You can't, it's like, what's the saying? Like leading horse to water. Like you can't make it drink.
And it's funny because, so I was supposed to start going like 3 weeks ago, and I actually couldn't believe how hard it was to find somebody.
Oh no, that's not, it's like dating. It's like speed dating.
Yeah. Like what the fuck? Like, I'm like emailed a bunch of people, like called, like no one got back to me. I was like, no, it's okay. It's like, it's cool. Like
it's crazy the epidemic of mental health and you can't find therapists.
So then, so I got in touch with this one lady and she had to cancel the first session. And I was like, okay. But I think what kind of clicked for me is I was like, I shouldn't say I was looking forward to it because that's not the right.
No, I used to look forward to my therapy sessions. You could say that.
Right. So no, this was like the first one ever. So I was like, kind of like, I don't know. I wasn't sure how to feel about it. But I think like what kind of clicked in it for me that I was like, okay, like I'm definitely ready to like fix all this shit was when she canceled it, I was kind of like disappointed. You know what I mean? Like I was like upset about it. I was like, shit. I was like, damn, I was like going to start like making a good change for myself today. So then that's when I've kind of realized like in the last like month or like, this is all like pretty recent for me, but in the last like month or so that I was like, okay, yeah, I'm definitely ready to like do this. Cause like, I feel like if she canceled it and I was like, oh, like, cool, whatever. Like, cool, I don't have to go. Like, kind of wanted this, that would have been like a bad thing if I thought that way. But I think it was like a good thing that I was like, kind of like, shit, And then she canceled on me yesterday too. So, it was so funny. It was so funny. It was like, you're watching The Office?
Yes.
So, like, I've actually never really watched The Office. I just know, like,
so you ever watch it? I've never really watched it.
I just know like some of the popular scenes that you see on like Facebook and shit. And I think it's I think like Jim's like firing Michael or something. He like fires him, he's talking about, and Michael's sitting there and he's like, I'm gonna kill myself and it's your fault. It's like literally yesterday. It was so funny. Like her name popped up in my email in the morning. I was like, son of a bitch.
And then like even like hearing you talk about this, even like as like you're saying as of recent, but like from when we used to talk and used to be like more close, especially during sports and younger age, like I could see the maturation of just like the emotional intelligence, being more open to talk about these. Cause you definitely, I could see it like as you're talking about, pushed it down and like went for that, like kind of like, I'm cool. Like I don't need to be, I'm not sad. I'm not, I'm good.
My emotional intelligence was poor in high school.
I would say the same. I was a typical like football kind of kid, just didn't care, just like use that as my outlet and like for years. And then when that ends and sports ends, and we could dive a little bit into that, like just like how sports helps like create relationships. But like losing that identity of football like caused me to get into drinking and drugs and doing stupid shit. So like I want to hear a little bit about like obviously you played a multitude of sports, kind of
did.
like the value of sports for yourself.
I played a lot of sports. Wasn't very good at any of them in particular, but
you were
did
good. You were
enjoy.
good. Yeah, you can't say you're bad because like
No, I wasn't bad.
no, because there's some people who play with it. It's like yo.
So I think I started playing soccer first. I don't know how old I was, like 4 or 5 maybe. It was pretty young. And I was like really good when I was like little. And then I think I wasn't as good when I got older. I mean, obviously that happens. Like you meet people who are just like fucking crazy good at sports. Obviously the older you get and the farther the farther you go. That whole thing. But I played soccer. Soccer is still my favorite sport that I played. I miss playing that. I used to play in so we played when I was a freshman at UMass, we used to play like, it wasn't club, it was like, I don't know, whatever the other thing they call it is. We used to go and play. I played after, or like during college, I played like in the summer with like, we used to play in a co-ed league, like me and some of the kids I played in high school with, like so like Matt and Kim and Lauren and all of them. We used to play in a co-ed league. So I definitely enjoy playing soccer the most. I liked playing baseball the second most after that. Until I like ruined my arm. And I like still to this day cannot throw a baseball.
Damn.
It will not bother me doing anything else.
There's your elbow, right? For a long time.
It's so bad. Yeah. And honestly, like I was thinking about it. It's like right in here. It's whatever this is. There's some tendons in there or something. But I can't throw a baseball anymore. It's like I can do it, but it's like I can't throw it hard or like very far. And like I said, I never bothered to get it like looked at because throw a baseball anymore. I don't need to. So I'm like, whatever. But like the only time I've ever noticed that it bothers me at all is like if on the rare occasion that I go and work out at the gym and I do like curls or something, it gets like hella tight. So I think it's just like a lot of like scar tissue.
Yeah.
To be honest, I think there's just like hella scar tissue in there that's like causing a problem.
Whether maybe you needed surgery or physical therapy back then.
But no.
It's too far gone.
I was like,
now.
I'm just not gonna play. So I stopped playing baseball. I think junior year. Which is probably for the better because like literally my arm would hurt every single day. So it's probably for the better that I stopped playing baseball. But I like playing baseball. I like catching.
Yeah, the sport of baseball was good.
Wouldn't have played. I definitely would not have played baseball if I didn't catch, because it's so boring.
Yeah, I mean you're literally active.
I literally get the ball every single play. Like I'm doing something every single play. Like if I was playing like right field, I'd be like, this sucks.
Well, there's a reason that people play right field.
I'd be like, why am I out here like this? I'd be like, this is crazy. So stand here for like 2 hours. I'm out of here.
That was something about baseball was like it's a mental game.
It is a patience sport, and I had no patience, so I caught. So, I definitely playing sports. Definitely. I liked playing soccer the most in high school just because I got along with everybody a lot better. Like all my like good friends in high school, we all played soccer together. So that was more of it was interesting. I kind of ran with like 2 different friend groups in high school. I had like the soccer friend group that I would spend time with like sometimes, but we pretty much see each other every day because we had like practice and stuff after school every day. And then I had like my like friend group that I actually spent like a shitload of time with outside of school, which was basically like John, Nathan, and Ron.
Yeah. Shout out to them boys. I know they probably never fucking listen.
No, they're not fucking
they
listen.
never listen. Ron never listens to my podcast.
They don't give a shit.
He supports though. He supports the merch. He likes the stuff, but he never listens. If he listens to this, he'll fucking hit me up and laugh.
I know. So I used to hang out with them a lot, but so that was like my main friend group, I guess you could say, was them, and then like the soccer friends and stuff. But it was, and then that was pretty much it. I didn't really like fuck with anybody else too much, and it wasn't for like any reason in particular. It was just the way it was when we were in school. Like everyone kind of just did their own thing. Yeah,
it stays with cliques. Like that's really the way it was.
And like even when I played baseball, like I wasn't super friendly with anybody on the baseball team, to be honest. Like it was like I'd go to practice, like hang out with everybody, like shoot the shit and like have a good time, but it was never like, oh, like let's hang out this weekend.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I was never gonna do that with any of the baseball guys. Like I never really wanted to either. It was never like that. Whereas like soccer was definitely like way more of like a we're a lot closer on that team, like for sure. Everybody who played that, and we had a good time. So, and
I think that's important with sports, and that's why I like to like hit on that a little bit too, and like I'll turn the conversation to kind of like leading up to kind of high school. We're leaving high school. You're looking at college. There's a lot of different possible routes, and like my famous question that I always ask the people is like, why go to college? Like, what was the reason for it?
Oh God, My mom really wanted me to go.
Everyone always says family. Like everyone always says it. Like I think it's fun. I think it's so interesting.
I did not want to go to college. So when I was in high school, I wanted to join the military, and I think the one moment of intelligence that I probably had, but this kind of came later because obviously my mom didn't want me to join the military, which is like whatever. And this was when I was 17, so I couldn't sign for myself because I was 17. So she's like, I'm not doing it. You have to wait till you're 18. I was like, all right, whatever. So then when I was like, by the time I was old enough at 18, I was already like into college because I turned 18 in March. I had to apply to college by like freshman year. So I was like, she's like, well, just like apply to like a few schools. And I applied to like schools I did not care about. I applied to like, not that there's anything wrong with these schools, but I had no intention of ever going to them. But I applied to like UMass Lowell, Bridgewater, Rick, and UMass Dartmouth. And that was it, just to like kind of appease her to be like, okay, I applied to college. And then I ended up choosing UMass Dartmouth. I don't even know why I picked there. I really don't. Like, there's zero reason. I just picked there. So, and then, like I said, like, while I was in college, I was like, well, I can, like, go to college. If I like it, then if I still want to go to the military, I can be an officer, like, better pay, it's, you know, whatever. But I kind of had a moment of realization where I was like, dude, I'm in a pretty bad spot mentally. Like, I should probably not go do a job that's you see like quote unquote normal people come back from and they're fucked up. Like, I probably shouldn't do that. That's probably not the smartest thing for me to do. And at the time I was already kind of like looking for ways to like solve the problem for me. So I was like talking to my doctor about it. It's not like, you know, I don't even remember what medicine I was on at the time, but it was like stuff that like the Army probably wouldn't fuck with, you know what I mean? They'd be like, you have to get waivers for this or that or whatever, which is like cool. But so I kind of decided like, all right, I'll try this college thing and I'll see how it goes. So I did UMass Dartmouth for my freshman year. Didn't really like it. Just never went to class. It was funny. So I got in as a biology major. I don't know how. I did like a Common App or whatever. Remember that shit?
Yeah.
So I did Common App and it like made you pick, I think, or I might have just not cared enough to actually read it. But it like made you pick something you were interested in. And I was like, well, I took AP Bio, so I picked biology. And I really didn't take AP Bio because I did not do well in that class. I think I got like a 2 on the AP exam. I think you need like a 3 to pass. It's out of like 5, I think. I got like a 2. 1 or a 2. Not good. So I ended up in the bio program at UMass. And I was like, okay. So like they give me my schedule or whatever, and I show up to this like chem class. My first college class ever. It's like a 160 person lecture. And this like professor comes out and he's I don't know where he's like this Asian guy. And he starts talking, he has like a really like thick accent. And I'm like, oh god, I can't understand this guy. And I'm like sitting all the way in the back, obviously, because I just didn't care. And I'm like, okay. Like, I can't understand this dude. I'm not good at chemistry. Like, fuck. So I'm like, all right, he's got a PowerPoint though. I can read the PowerPoint, I can figure it out. And fucking he puts a PowerPoint up and he typed it like the way that he spoke. So I'm like, god damn it. I'm like, I'm out of here. And I literally walked out like 20 minutes into my first class in college, went to my advisor, and I was like, yeah, I don't want to be a bio major. They're like, what do you want to do? I was like, can I just take gen eds? And they were like, sure. They were like, well, you can keep all these classes. I was like, no, get rid of all of them. Just give me the easiest shit you can give me. And so I did that. And then, yeah, I just had like these really like joke of a classes my whole freshman year. Didn't really go to them. And then I kind of realized I wanted to go to Berkeley. Or maybe not that I wanted to go to Berkeley, but I wanted to do music. Because that was always like a hobby for me. So I didn't want to do it as a job because I didn't want to ruin it. You know? But then I was like, actually, yeah, I think I really want to do this. So I like dropped out of UMass because I missed like, by the time I decided, I missed the fall application deadline for Berkeley. So I had to wait till like the spring. So I like dropped out of UMass because I didn't know if I was going to get into Berkeley or not. As, you know, whatever, if I get in, cool. If I don't, I kind of had made the decision that like, I'm not going to do nothing with my life. So if I didn't get into Berkeley, I think I was probably just going to go back to my original plan A and like go join the military in some capacity and do something like that. And at least I can say I'm doing something. I'm not like, you know, doing nothing with my life. But I ended up getting in. So then I went there and I like actually enjoyed my experience there. So I was like, okay, cool. I'll ride this out and see where this takes me.
Yeah. And then talk a little bit about the experience at Berkeley. Cause I know people might hear it and like, they kind of like, eyes perk up like, oh shit, Berkeley.
Everyone looks at me like that when I say I went there. And like, obviously it's a really great school and like incredible opportunities and stuff like that. But a lot of the stuff I learned there I didn't learn like in a classroom. Especially for like there's certain things that like if you go there for it, you're gonna learn it in a classroom. Like if you go and you're a performance major, like you're like a jazz comp major or something like that, like you're learning that shit, and you're working with some of like the best. Like I was a guitar player there. That's what I got in for. And if you're like a performance major, you have to take like 4 years of like lessons, like one-on-one with like some of the best guitar players like in the world who are like instructing you. So yeah, like that's where you're gonna learn shit in the classroom. But for me, like producing and stuff, I didn't really learn it in like sitting in a class. Like they don't like sit. There's like a couple classes that kind of try and do it and like get you into it, but you're not really gonna sit in a class there and have the professor be like, okay, so like, here's how you glide 808s to make your song more interesting. Like that's not gonna happen. Like you're not gonna get that. You have to learn that through like experience and like you have to learn from people who are better than you. And very fortunately for me, I landed in with a friend group who, one of the guys in particular, my friend Barry, is like an unbelievable producer. Like this kid's so fucking good. So like he taught me like pretty much everything. So Berkeley's really all about the connections. Like if you network well while you're there and you like meet the right people and you do all that stuff, like you'll be good when you come out the other side. But I think the thought of like kind of just going there and you're going to like sit in a class and they're going to give you all the answers of like how to be successful in the music industry is just not going to happen. They give you all the tools that you need for sure, but it's ultimately up to you to like figure it out at the end of the day and like meet the right people and, like foster the correct relationships and, go and kind of do it for yourself.
Yeah. I think you hit 2 points there that I think are fucking really important and they translate well to life in general is you have to learn from people who are better than you.
Yeah.
And the connections matter. Hence, I mean, the name of the fucking podcast.
Right,
I hit home on that so much because even in like the description when I was writing what this podcast was going to be was like making and establishing real life FaceTime connections with people. Like people don't do that anymore as much because of social media. And like I always like say this, but it's like social media is a tool for communication. It shouldn't be the only avenue of communication.
For sure.
And when you're put into these situations, like networking is so huge. People will joke about, oh, networking, haha, like funny, we'll talk and shake hands, like kiss babies and all that shit. It's like, no.
Important.
Like it translates to every facet of life. Like a lot of the jobs that I've even gotten into like the door with is because I knew people. Oh, yeah. And like for most people, especially now, you need to know someone to even get into the door with places. So if you're not doing these things and making these connections, and like that's the hence of like establishing a podcast where I talk to a variety of different people is so like I have a dope ass network of people who are like-minded,
right,
who care about mental health and have aspirations and passions to be successful in their career.
Yeah.
And I think that is way more valuable than if I did like a drama podcast talking about fucking random bullshit and stupid shit. Like it's not worth it. Like I'd rather play the long game, like I told you, and like keep investing in it. And I think those 2 points are super important. Like mentors are really great, or like anyone who's like really successful in your career or in your field, you go and learn from them and you ask questions. And I think that's important.
Yeah. And it's definitely important. And it's like it's the type of thing where, like I was talking about having like an ego earlier, you definitely can't have an ego when you're in those kinds of situations where you're with somebody who's like way better than you and they're telling you like, dude, that's not good, but like here's like 3 things you can do to make it better. You can't be like, oh well, fuck that person. You're like, okay, cool. Let me go do those 3 things to make this better. And that's really like how I learned like how to produce, because I think at the time, like I started making like kind of my own stuff when I was like, I don't know, sometime in high school. But I didn't understand like a lot of the stuff, like when we were talking about earlier, when I was like showing you all the shit on there and you were looking at it, you're like, I don't know what any of this stuff does. Like obviously that's where I started too. Like you have to start there and you have to have, you can go on YouTube and learn how to produce music. It's not hard, but there's stuff that like some people aren't going to give you on like a YouTube video or something that you have to learn by just like sitting there and like watching somebody work. Like there were times I'd go and like sit with him and like hang out at his apartment and I just wouldn't even say anything. I would just like, he'd be like working on some shit and I would just like sit there and just watch. and just try and like absorb all of the shit that he was doing, because he had worked with some like really big producers, and he had the opportunity to like get in with them and like intern with some cool people and like do all that kind of stuff. So I was like, by like trying to learn from him, I was like learning from like these other big producers, because he picked up stuff from them and he would do it, and then I would watch him do it. So I picked, like, by association, I was like learning from like some of these really, really good producers and stuff. So that's cool. And you kind of just have to learn how to like put your ego at the door and just be like, I'm not that good at this, but I want to be good at it. So I'm going to sit here and I'm going to put in the time and learn as much as I possibly can, to try and be better at this.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%.
So,
it's ego. Ego's it's a killer of a lot of dreams and passions.
It is for sure. So that's kind of how I started to get into producing a little bit, because I originally kind of just wanted to, like I said, I didn't really understand what it was when I got there. And I was more into like mixing and stuff, which is a little bit more of like a technical, like nerdy kind of, basically it's like mixing is essentially taking all of the parts of the song and you kind of like make them sound good together. You like improve the relationship of all the elements of the song essentially. So I wanted to do that. And like I said, when I met him and I was like watching the shit he was doing, I was like, wait, actually hold up, I want to do that. So that's when I really started doing it. And it was, it's definitely like an ego check for sure, because you make something, you're like, oh damn, like I'm proud of this. Like, you know, maybe not, you're not proud of it, but like, you know, you're like, this is cool. This is something that I made. And then you show it to somebody. And always for me, like when I think about like stuff in the music industry, like if I show something to somebody in the music industry and they look at me and they're like, oh man, that's sick, I'm never going to show you anything again, because I don't want to hear that. Like I want you to be like, oh hey, yeah, that's really cool, but here's this that you can do to make it better. Here's this, this, right? Like I want criticism about it because I want it to be better. I'm not going to show you stuff. You're going to be like, oh, it's dope. Okay. Like
that's not what
I need.
You have to follow the criticism.
Yeah, I want someone who's going to like listen to it and be like, okay, this is not the best decision. You could have made this decision here and this one here, and you could have done all these other things that would make it better. And then you go back and you do them all and it makes it way better. And then you go back to that person and they're like, okay, now that you've done all that, now you can do this. And now you can do this. And you learn all these little things. So, and you basically just like, if you think about it as like a checklist, right, of how you like make a song, I'd say like the very basic level is you need like an instrumental and you need someone to sing, right? This basic level of like, and then you're like, well, I'm going to use these instruments, and then I'm going to use this instrument this way, and this one this way, and this one in this part, and you kind of keep growing this like huge checklist of things that you do in a song, and that's kind of how you get it, I guess, in my mind, is like by working with people who have like a quote unquote longer checklist than you do. That's how you like pick up all those extra little things that are going to set you apart from everybody else who's making stuff.
Yeah, I think that's like you're hitting on great points too with like absorbing by like association. I think that's really true. And like someone works with someone and you're able to work with that person and like just be able to watch and see what they do. And like, I think that's why it's always so like great. Like when you're watching, like I love being a part of like collabs with people, whether it's like either like this is a collab, but it's like, I like being able to be like, I was literally watching you like touch all this different stuff and show me all these different things, and like seeing someone who knows what they're doing, look at it and like absorb from it. That's how you learn. And like obviously then I'm gonna start messing with stuff, maybe like looking into different things, looking at different microphones that you like suggested, and like this is like important for people to understand. It's like you got to leave the ego at the door. You don't know everything, like and you have to be willing to start from like kind of like a lower place, like kind of like zero. And I want to kind of steer this conversation too.
Go for it.
Talked about how you moved to like LA and you lived a little bit in Nashville and experienced a little bit in Nashville. Like, kind of wondering what forced you or what drove you to go out to these places.
Money. Okay.
Facts.
Okay. So I moved to LA after. Okay, so I didn't really finish. Okay, so I graduated Berkeley, but I didn't like. I graduated like while I was after I came back from LA is like when I officially graduated. So since I took a semester off, I was like behind all my friends. So we were supposed to graduate 2018. So they all graduated 2018, and I was like, well, I'm not gonna like pass up an opportunity to go move out there with them. So I like left, and I was like, I'll just finish online, like famous last words. I think I took like one class online while I was out there. So and I had like 4 left, so I was like so close. So I moved out there with all them in like 2018 that summer. And it was a good time. There's a lot of stuff to do out there. There's a lot of superficial stuff to do out there too. A lot of stuff that makes you look like you're cooler than you actually are. So I used to quite a little bit of that stuff, and I go on Instagram and be like, this would be a really cool Instagram story to post. And I post on Instagram and look, it would be some really nice house and some release party or some shit like that. And meanwhile, I'm standing there having a drink. I'm like, dude, I'm so fucking bored. I just want to go home. So yeah, it was pretty, some of the stuff out there is pretty superficial. Met a lot of most people who go to Berkeley end up going to LA. So it's like Berkeley 2.0 out there. I know so many people out there that I went to school with. And so you're always running into people all the time, and it's a good time. Had a lot of fun. Met a lot of really great people out there. And it was just kind of all about networking and trying to work as much as I could. And I worked a lot, not even just music stuff, because LA is expensive. And obviously being a producer, if you're not signed and you're not getting cuts all the time, you're not making a ton of money. It's I was kind of explaining to you earlier, before we started talking, you have to essentially work for free to get paid, because you have to pitch those songs to publishers to get them to think that you're worth it. You can't just submit a job application to a publishing company being well, I have a degree from Berkeley and I'm a producer, so you should put me on your roster. They don't care. They want your stuff to be good. So yeah, it's I had to worked at a restaurant out there. That's kind of how I got started working in restaurants, and I kind of liked it because it just kept me busy. You know what I mean? It wasn't a boring job. So did all that, and then ended up coming back here. Had not a falling out with my roommates, but because of the way that I was just hella depressed, and it was affecting them, and I think that they thought that I was just not enjoying living with them or whatever. So it kind of deteriorated the relationship a little bit. And it was just you would have think that would have been the moment where I was I should probably get some help. But nope, that wasn't it. Don't worry.
There was more.
There's more. Just wait. So I ended up kind of coming back here, and it was perfect timing, because it was when COVID was happening. And if I had stayed in LA for COVID, I would have been screwed.
Oh yeah,
because there was no work to be.
We were kind of on a similar timeline too. The way that kind of I literally went to Texas around 2018 after school. It's interesting, and I've actually run into this with a few people about moving away, and I'm kind of want to hear your take on it too. How moving away kind of changes your view on things.
Yeah. So like I said, LA was fun. It's cool. There's always stuff to do. A lot of good friends there. But I didn't enjoy physically living there, because it's just a mess. There's so many people there. The wealth gap is insane. You would not believe. It was so funny. We'd go to some house in Bel Air or some shit, and you're overlooking the whole city, and it's millions and millions of dollars everywhere you look. And then you go to we lived in the hills in Silver Lake, and if you went down the backside of so our side of the hill was really nice, and you look across and you see these $1 million homes everywhere across on the other hill on the other side. But then you go down the backside of our hill to into more of the Silver Lake area, and it was just some of the poorest shit ever. People in tent houses for forever. And it's just it's so crazy living there, and the congestion of everything and how long it takes to go everywhere and all that kind of stuff. I was it's exhausting. It's it's honestly depressing, because you're it's just it was cool for what it was, and I'll probably end up there eventually for a little bit, depending on where work takes me. But coming back here, especially I spent a lot of time with my other job down in Bristol and that area in Rhode Island. It's really nice there, and I'm I talk to people all the time. They're I can't wait to get the fuck out of Rhode Island. And I'm where are you gonna go? Where do you it's really nice here. It really is. And even if I lived in fucking Bel Air or some shit, I still feel it's not as nice as living here. It's just so much more low key here. And I mean, obviously it's all about what you want, but I felt every day was just super stressful living there. And when you're in traffic that every day, you're just stressed, because you're when am I going to get to where I'm trying to go? You know what I mean? It's everything was just stress, and all just fucking added up. And then Nashville is cool. I was only down there for, I don't know, a week or so. I went down there to go work with a couple people, and I've kind of been tentatively looking at some places down there, but It was a fun city. Like, I had a good time when I was there. Don't know if it's like super my scene, like culturally.
Yeah.
A lot of cowboy hats and shit down there.
Yeah, a lot of
That's
yeehaws.
not my thing.
You can learn to appreciate it, though. You can.
It's for some people.
After a while, though.
And not everybody's like that, obviously. But like,
that's strict, though.
It's a lot of like, there's a lot of like super like country music stuff. And like, don't get me wrong, I'll do some country music and get some money, but I was like, I don't want to make country music forever. That's not my thing. So like, met some cool people there, met some good connections down there. So I'll probably, I think, if I could have like an ideal situation, like if money wasn't an option, obviously I know everybody says that, but I would like live around here and then just like travel for work, go to Nashville for like a month, do like a shitload of sessions while I'm down there, come back, finish all the songs, ship them off. Like I do the same thing going out to LA, because like LA would be great to just go out there for like a few weeks or something, just like hang out, but like living there, no, I don't know if I want to live there again.
That's a whole different experience.
Yeah, it's a completely different thing. But yeah, it's like if you're living around here and you haven't gotten out of here, like definitely go do it and experience other stuff. But I wouldn't be so quick to judge and be like, it sucks here, because it kind of doesn't.
Yeah, no.
It's pretty nice here.
I'm glad that we share that similar point of view, because like I've seen some stuff in Texas and Georgia, and like you drive, even just driving through states, if you've never even driven in like other states outside of New England, like it's like, come on now, like dude, I've driven through Oklahoma and shit, like it's just
I drove from Boston to LA.
Holy.
It was the worst decision I've ever made in my life. I went by myself and it was terrible. I went insane.
Yeah, by yourself is kind of crazy.
Oh, it was terrible, dude. It was just fucking corn for like thousands of miles of corn, dude. And then I get in like the desert in Utah and it'd be like, it looked like I was like driving on Mars. And I'm like driving my car out there and you'd see like a sign on the side of the road. It's like, next gas station's in 200 miles. And I'm like, if my car breaks down right now, I'm going to die. Like, there is nothing out here. And like, there's no one else on the road. Like, no one is going to like drive by. And like, even if someone did, are they going to stop?
Are you going to want their help? It could be sketch too.
No, yeah, who are they going to be?
Yeah.
So it was stressful as fuck. I finally got there. I was like, oh, thank Christ.
Yeah, because I drove from up here to Texas, and we stopped in Nashville. Like I went down with Andrew.
Okay.
I'm not gonna say his last name.
Yeah, I don't wanna, I think I know what you're talking about though.
Yeah. Andrew A.
Your cousin, right?
No, Andrew A.
Oh, okay, yeah. I do know what you're talking about. Okay.
Yeah. So me and him drove down there, and we stopped, and it was thank God I had someone else, and like me and him, he's such a good conversationalist, so we just bounced back and forth with each other. So like drove down, went to Texas, and like then from Texas, my dad came out there. We drove to Georgia, which wasn't too bad. Yeah. But then my dumbass like really wanted to come back up to like here. Yep. So like I drove from straight through, never took a break from Georgia all the way up to
Jeez, it's gonna be like what, 23 hours?
It was less. It was like closer to 18. Okay. But like it was still a lot. Like it was I felt like I was drunk by the time I got home. Like I was just like so tired and like delirious from coffees and shit. But like seeing different places, meeting different people, hearing different stories, like you get a better appreciation for where you come from. And Seekonk's a great place. Like in the area surrounding, like I don't want to live in Seekonk. Don't get me wrong. Like, I'm not gonna stay like much longer. I don't want to. It's great place to raise a family, but I already did that. Like I lived here, so like I don't want to do that. I want to like establish something new. But like New England is something that I love. New England.
Yeah, it's a pretty nice area.
Like I think people don't appreciate that enough.
Oh yeah,
we are starting to come towards the back end of the podcast. I want to talk a little bit, give you a little chance to kind of promote what you do and like allow to the audience to hear like kind of like what you're working on, like kind of like your brand basically.
So for like public stuff right now, nothing too crazy. I have like a few artists I'm working with, but obviously it's up to them when their stuff's gonna come out. So I'm not gonna be like, they have stuff coming out, and so that's up to them. But yeah, just doing the music thing. Trying to get more involved in like sync placement stuff. So I've been talking to a few people lately who have like companies who shoot videos for Instagram. So I'm doing like music for them for their videos, working on like some back end stuff for producers. So spending my time doing like sample packs and stuff like that. And because that's like kind of it's like kind of quick money. You can kind of just like throw them out there and get people to get them. But doing that, trying to get into more session playing, like just playing guitar for some people and getting on some more stuff and just enjoying that. So I spend a lot of time, like when I have free time, which isn't a lot, but I'll shoot like a bunch of guitar videos and stuff and throw them on Instagram, do like popular songs or just shit that I like. And so that kind of keeps me occupied, gives me something to do. So I enjoy doing that stuff. Obviously you can go check me out on Instagram and TikTok and all that. Most Instagram. I like Instagram better. Instagram is my favorite. But yeah, and then planning to get with some cool songwriters that I know soon and finally do my own stuff, because I have a bunch of stuff that I want to put out, but I want to get with some writers who have a little more horsepower between the ears than I do to get some stuff a little bit better. And then finally do that thing, and that'll kind of just be like a fun side project. I'm not like super invested in having my own artist project, but I feel like it's something that I definitely want to do, and it'll give me the chance to do whatever I want, because when you work with artists, it's like what they want, even though, obviously when I got hired as a producer, it's like my job to kind of question what they're doing and be like, hey, I think you should kind of do this. But at the end of the day, it's their thing. So I'm like, here's my suggestions, but it's your decisions at the end of the day, because it's their song. So, yeah, some cool projects hopefully coming up in the new year is I think when most of that stuff's going to start coming out. So
cool.
That's the plan for that.
Everyone, best way through social media to reach out, and connect.
Yeah. So I have my personal Instagram. So if you know me personally, but like don't follow me, you can follow me on there. But if you are interested in seeing some like production videos, like how songs get made, some guitar shit, whatever. If you're like a music nerd and want to look into all that shit, I have an Instagram page for that too. So
okay, cool.
You can find me there too.
Yeah, we'll link it up. I'll tag you and all that stuff
good.
on social media too. So
sounds like a plan.
So wrap up this podcast. I do have one more question for you, which I mentioned off podcast. So
you did, but I forgot what it is.
Perfect. I always say I do. So what is your advice for someone who wants to pursue their passion?
Should I say it?
Don't even do it. I've said that twice to people don't say it and then they do that.
Oh, no. Don't just do it. I mean, shit. You can if you want. But I would say, like, have a plan. Like, think about what you're actually trying to achieve before you go and just kind of, like, wing it and whatever. Definitely have a plan. And, there's a lot of things to think about when you're, even if it's just for me, like doing music as a career, there's like so many things that go into it logistically of like, it's not as easy as just like, oh, I'm just going to throw a song out on Spotify. I mean, you could, but it's not going to do anything. Like there's so much stuff with like promotion and like getting playlisting and all these things. And it takes a lot of money and it takes a lot of time and it takes a lot of knowledge. And so I would say if you have something that you want to do, like plan it out, like be serious about it, find some people who are invested in you and want to support you, and find some like-minded people who are maybe trying to do the same thing, and kind of do that thing, and just find like a good team of people to put around you to help, because I was talking about it earlier when I was talking about like the mental health thing. Like you definitely can't do everything on your own, even if you think you can. And I've learned that the hard way, like probably like 10 too many times. But to be like successful in doing anything, like you got to have some people around you who like believe in it and want to help you out and help you do your thing. So don't just do it. don't just go out there blindly. Don't just like go, I don't know, if you want to be an influencer, don't just go move to LA and think that you're just going to post on TikTok every day and you're going to be good. Like you can do it, but it might probably not going to work out for you. But definitely just have a plan. Like make a plan and stick to the plan, and find some people to help you out along the way.
Perfect. I think that's actually really great advice, and I would co-sign that advice versus just do it. But no offense to anyone that's just said that, but like it's, we're not Nike here, so
don't do that.
Myles, I appreciate you coming on this podcast and sharing everything that you did. I always appreciate anyone who could sit across from me on the microphone with the camera and the lights and do this stuff, because
it's this kind of stuff doesn't bother me. I don't know why.
I figured not. But I always appreciate anyone that can do it. It's always a blessing.
Cool.
So
well, thanks for having me. This is cool. It's crazy you've done over 100 episodes now. I remember when you started it. I remember like seeing it on your page. So it's cool you've come this far.
I'm glad that I've stuck with it. I could guarantee you probably a lot of people is like, he's not going to stick with that. And you never know. You just got to keep doing it. It's consistency. Exactly. And the more consistent you are with stuff, the more likely that you're going to be more successful at it. And
exactly.
I'll preach that, but
yeah, for sure.
For you guys, if you guys like the podcast, please rate, review, subscribe, share it with your friends, share it with your family, share it with your grandma. You can check it out at thecarrollconnection.simplecast.com. Also Apple Podcasts, Spotify, all the major listening platforms. And if you like watching your podcast, I also post on YouTube. Just search Carroll Connection or my name, Jared Carroll, and it will pop right up for you. So until next time, guys, peace.